Okay. There's a reason I can't be on the other set, and the other reason is that that chair is too soft for me to sit in right now because I haven't said anything about this. A couple of weeks ago, I fell out in the back, and I fell backwards onto a pile of rocks and bricks, and really haven't been the same since. I've gone to the chiropractor multiple times, and I'm not getting any relief. And I'm not about to start popping fucking pain pills and getting a fucking problem like that. So I've just been dealing with it, which sucks. But anyway, that's what's going on. And more shitty news, and I get tired of fucking dealing with this situation. I don't know when Grindhouse Resurrection is going to be out, number 4. The issue was 144 pages. My girl Lorena submitted it to draft to digital. We've been going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and the problem is, the one time I called, I got a person, I cleared the air about the whole other issue we had there with the other magazine that had nudity in it, because God forbid you show a fucking tit anymore. So anyway, it was supposedly put in my file that it was okay. Well, it wasn't put in my file that it was okay. Then I told her to submit it as 42nd Street Pete's Grindhouse Resurrection, and that got it in. Since then, it's been a daily fuck you every day, okay? I've been trying to call them, and this is what I get. We're sorry, we've had so many calls, we had to disconnect our phones, but you can reach us by email, and we won't tell you a fucking thing that way either. So basically, right about now, it's sitting in limbo, and I was put with 2 options. I can yank 50 pages out of it and bring it to the local printer and get it printed there. The problem with that is, now we're into the shitbag weather. The local printer is an hour and a half away, and I'm having trouble fucking driving, okay? I'm going to admit it. This shit's catching up with me. I can't do what I used to do, and instead of this being fun, it's not. It's an effort. And that also adds to the fact that I got to lay out about $1,000 to get the magazines printed and up here, and then got to sit and wait till it trickles it out. I don't know what I'm going to do. All I know is I told her, you got a holiday, you got family, I don't. Have the holiday with your family, we'll figure this out later. Honestly, worst case scenario is going to be, I'll put it up on the website for free. I already talked to the webmaster, that can be done. I just want to talk to some of the other writers and see if it's okay with them. I hate to disappoint people, but my fucking hands are tied with this shit, okay? I don't have any fucking help with this except for Lorena editing the damn magazine. So it kind of sucks, but honestly, I've had to go through this with just about every fucking issue, and like I said, I'm getting fucking too old for this shit. I can't tolerate bullshit. I can't tolerate talking to an AI or some fucking artificial intelligence piece of shit that doesn't fucking get what I'm saying. So, you know, everybody seems to be cool with this shit, letting electronics run your fucking life. I ain't. So enough of that. If it happens, it happens. If it don't, it don't. Like I said, worst case scenario, I put it up on the website and say, fuck it, what am I going to do? But anyway, let's get back to Monster Kids. And 1956, a great movie called The Black Sleep. Well, this was a perennial on Schiller Theater all the time, and it had like a who's who of horror people. You had Lon Chaney Jr., Basil Rathbone, Tor Johnson, Akim Tarimov, John Carradine. Really good stuff. The whole premise is that this one doctor is going to jail for murdering this moneylender named Curry. And he's visited by Dr. Cadman, Basil Rathbone, who gives him a sleeping potion, which is actually this drug called the Black Sleep. And you have to get an antidote to wake you up, otherwise you will be sleeping forever. Well, the problem with the movie was, when it went out to be distributed, the distributors sort of thought that they didn't mean black sleep, they thought they meant black sheep. So in a lot of listings it was listed as the Black Sheep. When it was reissued by Bel Air, the company to put it out, it was changed to Dr. Cadman's Secret. But anyway, Dr. Cadman is doing brain experiments in his basement, and he gets to, a doctor gets to assist on one of these things where basically they had brought in a neurosurgeon to actually do the operation on a fake brain and make it look real. So the other thing too was this doctor didn't know that the subject was alive. So there's a bunch of bullshit going on, and Lon Chaney is Mongo, this deranged brute who wants to strangle his daughter because he don't recognize her. And he was once Professor Monroe. He was one of the first experiments. And there's a whole chart of brain thing with all these experiments. So now this doctor is wondering what the fuck he got himself into. So they go down, they find this cellar, him and Mongo's daughter. They find this cellar, and the cellar is full of other experiments, namely this one guy played by John Carradine who thinks he's fighting the Crusades, this woman covered with tufts of hair, the sailor that they just operate on whose face is all melting down and tries to strangle the doctor, and last but not least Curry, who's completely blind and in a cell by himself. Curry is, of course, Thor Johnson. So they are surprised by Dr. Cademan, his assistant, and Mongo. That doctor conveniently drops the keys in front of Curry before he is carried away. Now they had Udo the Gypsy, who was played by Akim Tarimov, who's basically channeling Peter Lorre, because Lorre was first considered for the role, but said it was too spooky and he didn't want to do it, but the bottom line was the money wasn't right. So Akim is basically channeling Lorre and doing his facial mannerisms and shit like that. He brought a female subject, but unfortunately he was forced to kill her because she could identify him. So he decides to throw, after they decide to use him as the experiment, he throws the daughter in the mix. And of course they wanted a female, and the whole premise is that Dr. Cadman's wife has a brain tumor, and they want to basically, I guess, do a brain switch or something. That's why they're doing all these surgeries. But in the meantime, Curry reaches down and picks up the keys, and this horrendous grin spreads on his face as he basically lets all the inmates out. And the nurse assistant is sneaking in. There's a fireplace between the secret passageway, and she's knocked down by the crutch-wielding Carradine into the fire and catches fire. Then they go into the operating room where Mongo attacks them, and they basically have a battle with Mongo where they strangle him. Then Dr. Cadman comes in carrying his bride, and they back him off a precipice, and he falls down to his death. Then the cops come in, and the doctor is exonerated and all that other good stuff. So Boots is coming here crying, "Stop bothering me, I'll feed you in a minute." So anyway, this thing ran on Chiller, and it was directed by Reginald Leborg. How cool a name is that, Reginald Leborg? And he had directed Chaney and Carradine in the Mummy movies, and this was his first go-around with Thor Johnson and Lugosi. Lugosi is basically a mute in this film, cast as a servant named Casimir, who was experimented on. And the backstory was that Lugosi petitioned the director for more dialogue, and he did shoot some scenes with Lugosi talking, but never used them. Chaney was sort of in that mode in the 50s where basically he didn't want any dialogue at all because he would be smashed by 12 noon. There was also something coming out that during one of the strangling scenes he got a little carried away and actually hurt the girl. So anyway, like I said, this was a perennial on Chiller Theater. Really good flick, really holds up. And about a year after this, in 1957, switcheroo, John Carradine would be the Mad Doctor, Thor Johnson would be his assistant, and he wound up with a basement full of mutants too. So that's our show for today. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you Wednesday with some really weird cinema episodes. So until then, stay safe.